Good
All
day,
right.
Dr. Randy. It's our weekly podcast today. It's July 12th.
Hi, Ryan. It was my birthday yesterday, and I'm so excited because I want to do
Yay!
all kinds of more new, wonderful things and reach more people and, give people the benefit of my errors and my wisdom. They come together. You have to make mistakes to get smart about things. There's just no other way around it. So today's subject is, and it happens all the time, by the way, when you are out in the world and maybe maybe you're married, maybe you're in a new relationship, but all of a sudden you meet an old ex and something shifts. It just changes. You look at that person, and it's like, oh my God, I still have the same feelings I had for that person. It's never gone away. I wonder what they're doing. Your eyes meet. It could be at a wedding, of mutual friends. It could be a high school or college reunion. I've had 5 people in my career who have met at a reunion and left existing relationships to get back together because they were childhood sweethearts.
Right.
All of a sudden it's like, oh my God, where have you been? Or maybe you'll just have a memory, a song or something. You'll Google somebody because of the blessings of of modern technology, and there they are. Well, they're in a relationship. You get to talking, and then you meet for coffee, and it's like, oh my God, why did I ever let you go?
Right.
And both people feel that way. Both people think, oh my God, do I dump this person I'm with now and take this chance? What a risk that would be. What if the relationship ended badly and other people hate that? It's all, what are we facing if we choose to do this? But the mutual attraction is so intense that they just can't stop thinking about each other. And maybe they'll try to break it off and then they come back together again. But there's no way that those feelings aren't going to go away. And both of them people realize we've got to do this again. But this time, we've got to do it right. So I tell people, okay, they'll come into me like, they're premarital counseling. This is like premarital second relationship counseling. They'll come in, what can we do to make sure that we don't make the same mistakes? How do we have to look at this differently? And these are the 10 questions that I ask them. And they process them with me, then they process them with each other. This is the time to lay it out because you've had that past experience and you don't want to fail again. It's so important. You just don't want to, because it would make everything wrong in the universe to fail again. But they also know that they failed once, and if they don't change things, they're very highly likely to fail again. So it's a time of, let's do this right. First question, how and why did the relationship end? These are hard questions. You've been apart for a little while or maybe a long time. You got to look back and see who was the bad guy, who was the girl, the good guy. Were you not paying attention to things that were going wrong? Did one person leave the other person, and especially, oh my God, for another person? Then you have all that added infidelity and broken trust that's there. There can be leftover feelings. When you shove down pain and then you reopen, the pain comes back, and you have to really share all those feelings and not take them personally and not blame the other person. But you have to get things out. Some relationships unravel over a long period of time, and people have had time to see maybe they shouldn't work. But some relationships end very quickly because something happens. Somebody gets sent to another town and the other person doesn't want to follow them. Or I have seen situations where people are deeply in love and the parents break up the relationship. They're the wrong religions or something like that, and they lose one another. But they never lose the love they had for each other. Now they have another chance, and they're not going to give it up this time because now they're adults and they can make a different decision. So that's the first question. The second question is, which partner left and for what reasons? And this is where we get into a lot of sorrow. This is where, as I said a minute ago, an infidelity may come up. Did a person leave because they were angry? Did they let the person know along the way they were angry? Did they just, did they leave a person abandoned and confused and bereft? Did the person who got left behind, because most relationships don't end equally, it's usually one person who wants to leave, mostly. So, how did that person heal? Or how did they move on? Or who did they reach out to help them? Do they have leftover feelings of how could you have ever left me? Why don't you try harder? Why don't you work harder? Some people get into, terrible behaviors. They'll burn clothing, or they'll call people's bosses at work, or they'll try to hurt them back because they've been so wounded. But other people just, they drift into relationships. Maybe they go into deep depression. They don't date maybe for a year, 2 years, 3 years. And then they finally kind of come back to life again. And the only way they can do that is by pushing that other relationship away and kind of pretending it never existed. They've shut it down because it was never resolved, Ryan. relationships that are resolved, people can go past, but something's broken and never resolved, it goes into a different place in your soul, and you never think about it again until all of a sudden it says, oh my God, maybe it's coming back. Now what do I do with all those unresolved feelings? Okay, number 3, how long did the relationship last? Now, if it is in the first 4 to 6 months of intention, passionate love or whatever it is, and it breaks off, that very often happens. As the sexual excitement drops, one person wants out. That's enough. That's all they wanted. It isn't exciting anymore, so they leave. So it's very important to ask yourself, did I have more investment in this relationship than the other person did? Did the person make promises and then break them? In other words, how long we were together, how much did we invest? Well, if people have been together a long time, like I've seen people get married and then break up and go back to these people. Well, maybe they have children, maybe they have bought property together, maybe they belong to the same church, maybe they have the same social groups. So if the relationship has lasted for a long time, you got a lot of people you need to deal with.
Right.
Just by virtue of the fact that you've been together a lot and you've shared a lot. And so now it's not just you. It's like if the relationship lasted a long time, there's going to be a lot more people involved, which we'll talk about next. Very important. Question 4. What was the collateral damage when you broke up? Now, again, if you were married for a while or have a few children or love each other's parents or, as I said, you've invested in money into things before, when you break up, everybody in your social circle is affected by that breakup. Whether it's children or families or businesses or money, you have to start over again financially. There was a huge amount of collateral damage. That's not as true, of course, if people are together for a short period of time. There's not going to be that collateral damage, but people take sides. You lose friends. Sometimes options are no longer open to you anymore. There's damage everywhere. Friends, church, everything. People don't know what to do with you as single people anymore, as they know what to do with you as a couple. So when you get back together, all those people have to rejoin. The ones that are still there have to have faith in the new relationship. And if they're invested in the other relationships you were in, or angry at that other person who left, or had to pick up the pain and the sorrow at the time it happens, they're not all that excited about welcoming that person back into that whole involved process. So sometimes these people have to literally start out clandestine. They have to be with each other and not tell anyone for a while. Hopefully not when they're still married, but hopefully they have to be together and make sure the relationship's going to work. And then all of a sudden they kind of present it to everybody else. And everybody's going, you haven't even told us that you were back together. And well, we just didn't want everybody to be upset if it didn't work. So now what do? Is you have to now come back into that environment you left behind. So that's really important. That collateral damage has to be, in fact, healed, not just between the two of you, but between everybody else that got affected by that breakup.
Right.
Okay. So, I could go on about this forever. I've had so many people do this. I mean, I've been with people so often who have met people and said, oh my God, I've never felt again about another person ever the way I felt about you. And I thought that way of loving was no longer going to be possible for me anymore. So I settled and I settled and I settled and I settled and I was okay until you came back. And now you've just messed me up forever because now I'm not okay anymore. And, there are a lot of love songs written about this because it's not uncommon. Because very often you don't know the person was the right person until you don't have them anymore. How many people only love what they love when they've lost it? This is the core of human beingness in the world. But when it comes back, and it's like, oh my God, I can't live without this again. I just can't. So the fifth question is, how was each partner affected short-term and long-term when the relationship ended? Because we got to know, sometimes that brings in traumas from childhood. It bleeds into everything. Were they broken when you left them? Did you feel horribly guilty and has never been able to love again since because you felt so guilty about what you did that you've been withholding loving another person? Maybe you don't ever trust anybody again. Things have bled, experiences have bled into each other. So how each person healed, or how each person moved ahead, or what each person learned from the experience has changed them in some way. And so you have to, when you get together back with each other, you say, are you different? And this is what happened to me, what happened to you, and what has happened to you since. And have you thought of me? And have I thought of you? And you got to explore how this thing ended. You've got to share with each other to the core of your spiritual beings, because how do you trust again? You don't, God forbid, want to make this mistake twice. It is so unbelievably painful to fail the second time around. People really, really want support, caring, and encouragement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the sixth question is, were there warnings? Very often relationships end prematurely and inappropriately because people do not heed the warnings. There'll be people fighting all the time, or they're giving all their prime time energy somewhere else. They have less time together. They're kind of living a parallel life. Their eyes don't light up anymore when they walk in the same room, but they don't do anything about it. And pretty soon the relationship is in decay. And when something's in decay, it's very hard to bring it back. So people will flee from it, one or both, just because they don't know what to do, and they give the relationship up because they didn't pay attention to the warning. And maybe if they paid attention to the warning signs and done something about it, maybe they wouldn't have lost each other. So instead they, the bad word, quote unquote, they quit. And now when they meet that person again, they feel absolutely terrible. Why did I quit? Why did I leave you? Why didn't I try harder? Then they have to look at, well, is that true everywhere else in my life? If I always run rather than stayed the course and tried to turn something around, you start asking very deep personal questions about yourself. Where have you been successful? Where have you failed? Where have you stayed too long? Where have you run too quickly? Those are important questions. This all has to come out in order for them to have a chance of doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
Seventh question, and this is so important. Was there really still love there when you left? And it just got buried. It got buried under all the anger or sadness or hurt or whatever. Or maybe somebody got sick, or maybe they had financial ruin, something like that. But when I'm with a couple, even when they're fighting, sometimes somebody will say something funny and the other person laughs. And I'm saying, oh, you can still make her laugh. Or somebody will start to cry and the other person reaches out spontaneously and touches their leg. They're still getting a divorce, but you can see that the parts of them are not done. You can see that they left still clinging to one another. Now, in the example I gave before, and I've seen this happen a lot, when the relationship is broken up from the outside, different religions, or the parents aren't approving of it, or they just lost each other for the wrong reasons, or somebody got temporarily interested in someone else, and by the time they came back, that person was gone. There are reasons why, but when you got to ask, if you're coming back, there's got to be something that we overlooked because we just started paying attention to the negatives. We started paying attention to what the relationship cost us. We started getting irritated. We started getting allergic to each other. But there was always this kind of sweetness underneath. And we didn't give it a chance. So you have to say to yourself, were those positive feelings still there when you left? Did you push them aside because you wanted or needed to get out because you were scared or too immature? Too soon after another relationship? Have you both missed each other during your time apart? Remembering little moments, you hear a song, it's like, oh, and your heart sort of bleeds a little bit inside. Or you go past a restaurant where you got engaged, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, I remember those moments. They were probably the happiest moments of my life. You start getting that sort of nostalgia. And then when you see each other, it's there. It's never gone away. So if people had no love lost between them when they left, there's much less of a chance that they're ever going to come back together again.
Yeah.
Okay, the eighth one. What are the angers and resentments and disappointments and disillusionments that you have to clear the air? Not take it personally, listen to the other person, understand that other person's point of view, what they experienced. Man, if ever, this is the time for authenticity, it's now. If you've learned, if you've been in other relationships, if you've grown, if you've learned more about yourself, if you debriefed what you did, if you've looked carefully at the things that were important to you, you're coming back now. This is the time to tell the person, this is who I am. This is what I have to offer. This is what I need. I love you. Can we put aside the things that don't work, or, work on the things that do work together? Coming back together You leave no stone unturned. This is the time for 1000% complete and total honesty. It's the only chance you have. Talk about all your other relationships and why and how they ended before and since you've been together. Were you the reason? Did you choose the same kind of people? This is the time, as I said, for 100% bare your souls. Act as if you're going to be put on a desert island for the next year. You better be real, because you're going to see and know everything about that human being. You need naked emotions, 100% out there, without reacting, without being defensive, without accusing, without keeping score. It doesn't matter. You are looking for a clean slate, but a clean slate with understanding and experience. So it's the kind of slate where you can start over, but knowing what to do right and what not to do wrong. You've got to start over. You can't start over if you have leftover feelings that are not expressed or sorrows that you didn't talk about. They will linger, and eventually they're gonna make this not work. So this has to be 100%. I'm in your life forever. You're in my life forever. We are never going to leave each other again. We're going to work out everything we ever couldn't work out before. Neither of us is going to quit because our love never went away. Where do you find that in this world? It never went away, no matter what. So we're not going to lose it again. So the last question I asked them, how have either of you changed? Are you the same people that came together before? Or have you learned? Have you grown? Do you have new perspective? Share that with each other, because now the dreams you have, the goals, the dreams, what you have to offer, as I said, what you need from the other person may have changed. So where you are now in this world, can you be better for each other or not good enough for each other in a whole different way? You know, when relationships end, let me back up just a minute. People order other people in the world for them exactly as they are. And as strange as that may sound, we're always looking to see ourselves in a reflective mirror that's honest. So when we are people that control ourselves, we look for somebody who's going to control us to blame them for it until we realize it's our own doing to our own selves. So when you come back into a relationship and you say, how have you changed? Because if we do what we did before, we're doomed to lose each other again. How have I changed? What are my new hopes and dreams? What do I want out of a relationship? I'm more mature now. I've learned about life. How have you changed? How have I changed? Can we make those dreams mutual? And underneath all of it, it's like holding hands. We're not going to lose it next time around. That's the only thing that can make it all okay. What we did in the past. If we don't lose it the second time around and we make it work, it will always have been okay. If we don't make it work, it will never have been okay. So those are the questions I take people through one by one to make sure that they're on solid ground. And they use me to witness that. I'm telling you, I'm witnessing your responses to each other. And when we can get through all those 10 questions, I can tell you that second time around is God blessed gorgeous. I have seen the most beautiful relationships where people come back together for the right reasons and rejoin for the right reasons in the right way. The relationships are just spectacular. They're different. So again, I could probably talk about this all day and give you example after example.
Yeah.
But this is kind of covering just the basics.
And you said there's more times than when these past relationships arise again in many people's life, right? They come back, the exes.
When they have been unfinished, when they're not resolved, and when love still exists, and when no one ever since that person has ever made you feel the same. It's like coming home. Why did I ever leave you? I've written articles on why did I leave you, leaving a relationship prematurely or for the wrong reasons.
Right.
And sometimes it's controlled by the outside, but they feel as if they're coming home. It's like, why did I ever leave you? No one has ever in my life made me feel the same.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Great. This is a great article. We'll go ahead and post it this week. And then, and is this an article that you're publishing soon? Or
Yes, it should be posted this week on Psychology Today. It will be much briefer than this when I get to talk about something I can really talk about. But when you're writing, it's a very short article, so it's a little bit harder to get everything out. But hopefully with the two of them together, people can even get a better sense of this.
And where can they find more of your articles?
Well, they can look me up on Randi Gunther YouTube, and we've got 21, 22 now of these podcasts, which is wonderful. They can also write to me anytime at Randi Gunther at Cox.net. That's Randi Gunther, lowercase, one word, Randi with an I. I always respond. And also, if any of my listeners or readers have a particular subject they'd like me to talk about, I can do that. Been around a long time, there's not much I haven't seen, and I'm happy to do that. Even if it's just for one or two people who just like to talk about something important to them, I'm on.
Great. Okay, Dr. Randi, till next week, thank you for your time, and can't wait to watch this again and spread it to everybody.
It's my pleasure.